So, Mega Man, the Blue Bomber and the face of Capcom, before Capcom forgot about him. Anywho, today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a retrospective for Mega Man, where in this video I'm going to talk about the first 6 Mega Man games, and in the next review of Mega Man I'll be taking a look at numbers 7 through 11. However, for this classic series retrospective, if you will, I'm only talking about the numbered games on the Legacy Collection and Mega Man 11. So that means no Mega Man Powered Up, no Mega Man in Base, and none of the GBA games. I am sorry, but that's how it goes, since I don't have any access to those games. So please forgive me. Anywho, guys, I hope you enjoy, and let's start off this little Mega Man Classic Series retrospective. Yeah, let's go with that. Begin the review. So, Mega Man 1. In this game, the plot is that Dr. Wily steals 6 of Dr. Light's Robot Masters and reprograms them to be his pawns. And one of Dr. Light's assistants, Rock, becomes Mega Man in order to stop Dr. Wily. There's not much to go into when it comes to the story, so let's just talk about the gameplay. You play as Mega Man throughout the entire game, and even to this day, he actually plays pretty well. Sure, yes, I do think he controls a lot better in future titles, but even so, I think he's actually pretty nice to control here, outside of jumping, which we'll get to later on. Now, even though robots can shoot through walls and can hit you, you can do it as well, so it makes it fair and not bullcrap. And also the fact that he can even copy the abilities of the Robot Masters, but I'll say that for later. My biggest issue when it comes to playing as Mega Man in this game is the jumping. He honestly feels stiff whenever he jumps in my eyes, since, I don't know, whenever I have him jump, it just doesn't feel right, and whenever he lands, it just feels like, wow, I feel so lucky he was able to make the jump and I didn't fall into the bottomless pit. It especially gets annoying in Gutsman stage, where it's about conveyor belts, and if you don't jump at the right time, you fall down faster into the bottomless pit than Sonic the Hedgehog. But for the Robot Masters, there are 6 of them in this game. There's Electman, Iceman, Flameman, Cutman, Gutsman, and Bombman. When it comes to their stages, I think they're good for the most part. I actually really liked Electman stage. I liked playing through Cutman stage, even though it didn't really feel like Cutman to me in terms of the level. And I also enjoyed Gutsman stage outside of the stupid as heck conveyor belts. But I definitely did have some issues with him, most notably Iceman stage, because he has this thing called ice physics, and god, they're annoying to deal with sometimes, and sometimes you can slide off into bottomless pits, or slide into an enemy when you have low health. Yeah, isn't that fun? Oh, and also, reappearing and disappearing blocks. Fun. As per Flameman stage, it's okay, not much to really say about. And Bombman, well, much like Cutman, it doesn't feel like Bombman to me, but it's an okay level, I guess. And in terms of their bosses, if you have their weapons, they're pretty easy to beat. Oh yeah, let's talk about their weapons real quick. I honestly feel like there's only 3 weapons I enjoyed from this, those being the Rolling Cutter, the Ice Slasher, and the Elect Beam. With the Elect Beam, it shoots in 3 separate directions, and is actually really fun to use. With the Rolling Cutter, it's a boomerang type of weapon, and it's pretty fun to use. With the Ice Slasher, it makes enemies freeze in place, and is extremely useful when it comes to the robots that jump up like a pogo stick. But as for the other 3 weapons, Super Arm is only really useful to me during 2 of the boss fights, one against Cutman and one during one of the Wily Castle stages, and at the start of Wily Castle 1 when you have to move blocks out of the way. The flame weapon is okay in my opinion, I didn't really use it that much outside of the battle against Bombman in the rematch. And the heavy bomb. Dear god, this one is so boring and so slow. It takes a while for it to go off, and I only really used it against Gutsman, and even then I was just like, please hit Gutsman before he jumps up in the air, and I felt like, oh wow, it's not my fault because it just explodes so slowly. So yeah, worthless weapon. There's also the beam you can use to get over bottomless pits and spike hazards, which is pretty useful, especially during the reappearing and disappearing blocks in Iceman stage, and is also useful for one section during the Wily Castle level. Speaking of which, I did not enjoy going through the Wily Castle levels. They're just a pain to get through, and the bosses, with the exception of Copy Mega Man, are not fun in my opinion, especially the Yellow Devil. Thank God for the rewind option in the Legacy Collection, or else I would be here till next Tuesday. Seriously, screw that fight. But with Copy Mega Man, it actually felt like a fair challenge in my eyes. Now, I feel like I can really say so much about Mega Man 1, but there's not much I can really say about it here. I do think the music is pretty good, but there's nothing about the soundtrack that really stands out to me in my opinion. Overall, Mega Man 1, well, yes, I have talked some positives about the game. I ultimately just didn't enjoy it that much, mostly because of just how annoying it was to get through at certain points, especially with enemies like Sniper Joes and others that really just hurt my experience. Don't get me wrong, this is a decent game, but compared to other entries in this series, not just the classic series, but the Zero and X series, I don't really feel like I need to play this game again at all. It's an okay start to the series. Time to talk about Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2. For its story, Dr. Wily built 8 Robot Masters and plans on using them to kill Dr. Light and Mega Man and then take over the world. So because of that, Mega Man decides to take down the Mad Doctor once again. Let's jump into the gameplay. Much like Mega Man 1, you can shoot enemies left or right as you go through 8 stages to take down the Robot Masters before going to the Wily stages to take down Dr. Wily once again. Now, I feel as if Mega Man had a massive jump in terms of gameplay control here because he feels a lot more smooth, especially when it comes to his jumping. Because, like with Mega Man 1, my biggest issue was him jumping across platforms. Here, there's not much of an issue here, and I thought he controlled really well in this game. Also, you have items to collect. Item 1, Item 2, Item 3. One of them is used as a jet board, while the other two pretty much do the exact same thing by helping you get onto a different platform by using them as a boost, so there's not much to say about them. Now, when it comes to the Robot Masters, there are 8 new ones in this game, and I thought all their stages for the most part were pretty fun to go through. My favorites being Metal Man, Air Man, Wood Man, and Quick Man. Yeah, I'm surprised that Wood Man was one of my favorite stages to go through in the game. That actually surprised me. Doesn't help that you also get some pretty cool weapons, with the best one being, of course, the Metal Blades. This is OP as crap, since it fires 3 at a time, and you barely lose any ammo, so you can fire at most 50, and yeah, that's how broken they are. They just tear through enemies and Robot Masters to shreds. So much so, on normal mode, if you fight against Metal Man in the rematch, you can take him down with 1 Metal Blade, but on difficult mode, you take him down with 2. So yeah, I think the abilities do help out here. Sure, there are some lame ones, like the Quick Boomerang, Bubble Blaster, I think it's what it's called, the one you get from Bubble Man. They're not really that useful in my opinion, so not much to say. The only stage I wasn't a big fan of was Heat Man stage because of the reappearing but disappearing blocks. Thankfully, one of the items can help you out, but still, it was kind of a pain to get through at certain points. I also enjoyed Quick Man stage because you can actually use the Time Stopper, which is his weakness by the way, in order to bypass the stupid laser beams of death. So yeah, I think the stages, while sure I haven't gone much into them, are an improvement. The only one I also think is not very interesting is Flash Man stage. I don't know, his stage just doesn't stand out to me, it's just kind of forgettable. And Crash Man had an okay stage. Though, if anything, I feel like his design screams more of a Drill Man, but don't worry, they're going to use that for Mega Man 4. I also liked how in this game you introduced E-Tanks. Pretty much with E-Tanks, they fill up your health bar in case you're low, but be sure to use them when you need to. Just don't use them when it's pointless. There's also the Wily stages, and I'll be honest, they didn't feel as hard as in Mega Man 1. I'll be honest, I played this game on difficult mode, and I rarely had any trouble playing through the game. Sure, yes, I did use the rewind thing, but that was only because of stupidity sometimes on my end. But even so, I don't think Mega Man 2 is that difficult a game. It's a fun platformer, and I feel as if this is your first time playing a Mega Man game, it can be really fun. My only major issue is one of the stages in the Wily Castle, where you have to be sure that you step on the right platform or else you'll go down and have to go back all over again, and sometimes it's over a pit of spikes. And also, screw the turd boss. But yeah, that's Mega Man 2. A pretty fun game, and I can see why many people consider it to be the best Mega Man game. And also, the music is cracking. So let's move on to Mega Man 3, shall we? So, Mega Man 3. For its story, Dr. Wily stops being evil and helps out Dr. Light and the gang. While mining for power crystals, 8 robots go haywire and start causing trouble, and Mega Man has to stop them. Halfway through the story, after fighting Breakman a couple times, it's revealed that Dr. Wily is behind it all and stole a robot known as Gamma. Hey, kinda like Gamma from Sonic Adventure. Okay, sorry, I know someone called me Johnny pointed that out, but I couldn't resist. Besides, later down the line, in a future Mega Man game, they're also going to have a robot that shares the exact same name as another E-Series robot. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the story and not much to say about it. In terms of gameplay, there are some improvements from the previous two, most notably the slide. I love this because it makes going through the levels faster, and it's also just fun to look at when Mega Man does it. It just looks so adorable. Oh, and also, this introduced Rush, which replaced the items from Mega Man 2, and yeah, the items in Mega Man 2 were pretty boring, but Rush is a robot dog who's red. He's so adorable, and he can transform into a submarine, be a jetboard, and can even be a spring for Mega Man to jump. It's such an adorable idea to have a cute little dog help Mega Man go through the enemies. It's just so adorable. There's also the Robot Masters in this game, and I think it had a pretty good selection of Robot Masters. My personal favorites are definitely Snake Man, Gemini Man, Shadow Man, and Magnet Man, as I felt they had some really cool stages to them, and I also like Spark Man's level. I don't know, I just thought it was a pretty fun level to go through. They also have cool designs, even though one of them is just a top. Yeah, Top Man. Looks kinda weird. And also, why is there a giant cat in this stage? Seriously, that makes no sense. And I know I'm talking about Mega Man, but still, it doesn't really match the style. Also, in the levels, I just thought the stages for them were pretty fun. My favorite stage out of all of them was probably Gemini Man. I don't know, I just thought it was really cool to go through. Oh, and when it comes to their weapons, this is the only problem I have with the Robot Masters, other than Top Man. Their weapons are kinda generic. Most of them pretty much do the exact same thing. With Hard Man, you shoot a fist. With Needle Man, you shoot a needle. Spark Man, you shoot a spark. And sure, while yes, with Shadow Man and Magnet Man, you shoot a shuriken and a magnet, at the very least with those two, they're done creatively. And also with Gemini Man, I don't know. Cool Robot Master, but his weapon, while yes, it can be useful, it only really works if it ricochets in the correct place, because if it doesn't, you just wasted your shot. Which, sure, yeah, you can say in general, but still, with him, it just feels like, wow, you're doing all this ricocheting, and it just leaves me open for a shot. But even so. Now, when it comes to the other character that's introduced in this game, we have Breakman, or as he's more known as, Proto Man, who interrupts your progress throughout the game, and he's a cakewalk. Now, one thing that I do like is how they introduced him at the very end as Mega Man's brother, that was reprogrammed by Dr. Wily, and now is a good guy. I don't know, I just thought that was really cool. Oh, and his Japanese name is Blues, because again, Mega Man has an obsession with music, and speaking of which, I love that whistle he does. Can we play the whistle real quick? Thank you. So, yeah, there's also the music of the game, which I thought was really nice, just as Mega Man 2. And sometimes I actually prefer listening to the Mega Man 3 soundtrack than I do the Mega Man 2 soundtrack. I don't know, I think these so far have the best soundtracks out of any Mega Man games, in terms of the first 6 entries in the classic series, in my opinion. However, there is one problem with this game, and it's in the middle. The Doc Robot stages. Dear God, what is the point of these? Now, yes, I know everyone has complained about them, but you know what? I'm going to complain about it too. I actually somewhat prefer playing Mega Man 3 over 2. Yeah, I said it. But this is my one gripe with the game. These stupid dock robots. Now, I understand that, yes, this game was actually unfinished according to Keiji Inafune. And I'm pretty sure that they were meant to be used during the Wily Castle rematches. But still, what's the point of these? It's a nice callback to Mega Man 2 by having the Robot Masters from that game show up in a unique way, but still, it's just a pain in the butt as the stages have some differences to make them feel different, but still, they feel like marathons. And doesn't help that if you die during the Doc Robot fight, you have to pretty much start the level all over again. Ain't that just fun for the kids, and for myself, and everyone else? No, it's not fun at all. And yeah, it just really dampens the experience. Thankfully, after that you get the Wily stages, and they're actually pretty easy in this game. Mostly because they give you a lot, and I mean a lot of energy tanks. Even when you fight the Yellow Devil, it's not that much of a trouble compared to the first game. So even though, yes, it is easy in the last half, I think it makes up for the middle half of the game being not very fun. Oh yeah, and Gamma, he's weak to the top spin. Oh yeah, it's kind of weird how Dr. Wily has statues of Gutsman and Mega Man 1. Mega Man 2, he has the Gutsdozer, and Gamma looks like Gutsman. Does Dr. Wily have a thing for Gutsman? But yeah, that's Mega Man 3. I think it's a solid continuation, but it definitely did have its moments of bad in the middle chunk of the game. Okay, we're halfway through in terms of covering the games in this video. Let's move on to Mega Man 4, The Quest for Peace. So, Mega Man 4, the plot of the game is that a Russian scientist known as Dr. Kozak created 8 robot masters and is starting trouble, and it's up to Mega Man to stop him. However, when you beat Dr. Kozak, it's revealed that he is working under Dr. Wily. Why, you may ask? Well, it's because of the fact that Dr. Wily is holding his daughter hostage, so that means it's either he helps him or he loses his daughter, and it's up to Mega Man to stop him. Now, while yes, this is another, oh, Dr. Wily's not the bad guy until the very end, I feel like this does it the best out of any of the classic games, since it makes Dr. Wily look intimidating since he's telling another scientist, hey, you better help me out or else your daughter gets it. It makes Dr. Wily look like an intimidating foe as he's even willing to threaten children to take down Dr. Light and Mega Man. I actually think this game has a pretty nice story even though it is really short. Now, in terms of gameplay, the game does have the same old stuff from the previous entries, but it does have a few new features. The most important one being the charge shot. I'm on a charge shot! Which actually does help out the player in a lot of instances. Now, just note it doesn't charge up any of your weapons, only your buster shots. So it does feel fair in that regard. Now, there are 2 other things this game adds, those being the grappling hook and balloon. With grappling hook, it does what it says it does. It helps you shoot up into the air and can also help you reach some items. With the balloon, however, it acts very similarly to the Item 1 and Item 3 from Mega Man 2, which can help you create platforms in order to stand on in case you're above a bottomless pit. Now, the one issue with the grappling hook is that it can only shoot up, but it does help you in the Dr. Cossack battle. Then there's also the new 8 Robot Masters, and I think this one had a pretty good selection, with my personal favorites being Pharaoh Man, Drill Man, Ring Man, and Skull Man. I think Skull Man had probably my favorite stage, but Pharaoh Man was definitely my favorite, probably. I don't know, I just think those 4 stages were great. The other 4 stages were fine, but the only one I wasn't a big fan of was Bright Man stage, mostly because of the lights turning off and on, and the stupid platforms going from right to left, and also the dumb grasshoppers. But Skullman has probably my favorite level, mostly because of the fact how fun it was to try and take down these skull enemies and figuring out when I should fire at them. But even so, the skull enemies were pretty fun to take down. So yeah, when it comes to levels, I think they had a pretty good lineup, But when it comes to Ringman, my only issue was the 5 boss fights he had in his level. Seriously, you don't need 5 mini-bosses. What is this, Blaze Hatenix from Megaman X6? But, anywho, when it comes to their weapons, they're fine. The Pharaoh shot is awesome. It actually charges up and is really fun to use. Drillman's weapon, even though you just shoot a drill, it packs a big punch and is really useful in my opinion. Then there's also Toadman's weapon, which is like a screen nuke and takes care of enemies easily. The Ring Boomerang's okay. Not a big fan of Time Stopper, whatever it's called. Dustman's weapon's fine, and the Dive Missile is just not fun to use. But yeah, overall I enjoyed the Robot Masters, and even though Toadman is easy, he's just hilarious in my opinion. Now, you're probably wondering, Sean, how come you aren't going to complain about the Cossack stages, but you're going to complain about the Doc Robot stages? Well, dear viewer, I'm going to save that for Mega Man 5, which, speaking of which, overall, I think Mega Man 4 is definitely a really good game in the series, and I would actually go back and replay it sometime. It's definitely a fun game to be sure. Now let's move on to Mega Man 5. So, with Mega Man 5, the plot is that apparently Proto Man has gone haywire and kidnapped Dr. Light and has 8 new Robot Masters for Mega Man to fight. After you fight them, you go to take on Proto Man, and shock of all shocks, it's a fake Proto Man made by Dr. Wily, and you have to fight Dr. Wily. So, that's the plot of the game, and honestly, I know I shouldn't be complaining about a plot in a classic Mega Man game, but I think the whole Proto Man thing was pointless. I'm not even joking. You could have cut that whole thing out and nothing would have changed. Now, before you ask me, Sean, what about Dr. Cossack? At the very least, that served a point, because at first, it's all like, wow, this Dr. Cossack is evil, but, oh, I feel bad for the guy now, since Dr. Wily is holding his daughter hostage. Here, we already know Proto Man's a good guy, so there's literally no point to all this. That's one reason why I didn't mind the Cossack stages, because here's the thing with Mega Man 4. The game didn't feel that long to me at all. It felt like an hour at best. But with Mega Man 5, the way it's going from the Proto Man stages to the Wily Castles, I felt the length and I was just like, oh my god, is this game over with? That's one reason why I couldn't bear going through the Wily Castles in this game. They just felt pointless because of the Proto Man stuff. Now, in terms of the gameplay, it has a lot of similarities to the previous entries, like how some things like, of course, the charge shot and slide come back, and how you still have Rush. However, Rush Submarine is no longer in the game. And you also have something I forgot to mention in the previous entry. Pretty much, there was a new character named Eddie that was introduced. Pretty much throughout stages, he would show up and give you items such as weapon energy, a life, health, and E-tanks. So he comes back in this game, as well as Beat, the bird. In order to unlock him, you need to collect 8 titles that spell out Mega Man 5 throughout each of the levels. So it's pretty easy to get them all, but it definitely feels like a reward. However, I actually never used Beat during the game. I just forgot to use him during the final boss, even though could have made that a hell of a lot easier on my end. But still, there's also the mystery tank that actually helps you out, since it can refill all of your life energy and all of your weapons as well. Just be sure when you should use it, and also be prepared to turn off the TV's volume, because trust me, you will hear this sound effect a lot. Now, then, there's also the 8 Robot Masters in this game, and I must say, this game had a pretty decent selection of Robot Masters. Actually, take back decent, I think almost all of these Robot Masters are awesome. Each one of them has a very good stage to them, and all of them stick out, and I personally had a fun time with almost all of them. The only ones I was okay with were mostly just Charge Man. He's just Thomas the Tank Engine, but a robot. And also Stone Man, just kind of there, but the other ones had some pretty cool stages. My personal favorite levels are definitely Gravity Man and Crystal Man, as both of their stages were just such a blast to go to, especially Gravity Man with the gravity panels. I also got to give a special shout out to Dive Man, because there's actually a section where you're on a water vehicle. It feels like a predecessor to the Ride Chaser stages in Mega Man X, and also the fact that they were just plain fun to go through. I think in terms of design, Gyro Man and, of course, Starman, I think almost all of them were fun to go through. And sure, yeah, with Napalm Man, he's just a walking tank, but hey, he's a walking tank. He looks awesome. Then there's their weapons, and I thought they were pretty good for the most part, with my personal favorite being Gravity Man, and also a special shout out to Crystal Man's weapon, which even if it misses the target, if it hits the wall, it sends 3 little crystals to attack the enemy as a ricochet. It's definitely a better version of Gemini's weapon. Though, the one that I thought was the most pointless was the Charge Kick. It's just a slide, but with a kick, and much like Top Man's weapon, you can actually take damage. So, yeah, not very fun to use. But my biggest issue with Mega Man 5 is definitely the middle half with Proto Man. Now, yes, I know I already talked about it earlier, but still, I was not a fan of the Proto Man stages going into the Wily Castle stages. But even with that issue, I still ultimately enjoyed Mega Man 5. Do I want to play it as much as, say, Mega Man 2, 3, or 4? No, but it's definitely better than the first game, and it's definitely a fun time. We're almost at the home stretch, people. Let's talk about Mega Man 6. So, for the plot of the game, it's about the first annual Robot Master Tournament, where robots from all over the world come together to fight each other to the death for humans' entertainment, and to see who's the true Robot Master. That sounds dark. Like, seriously, forcing to kill each other for humans' entertainment? What is this, boxing and wrestling? But, anywho, the organizer of the tournament, Mr. X, takes the top 8 competitors, because of course it's the top 8 he takes, and reprograms them to be his robot minions, and it's up to Mega Man to track them down and stop Mr. X. Gee, I wonder who Mr. X is. Yeah, it's revealed it's Dr. Wily, because of course it is. Seriously, these two look identical to one another. What, is that we're supposed to believe that Mr. X is actually Dr. Wily's cousin? No, it's Dr. Wily. Now, in terms of gameplay, it is very similar to Mega Man 4 and 5. You can use the charge shot, you can slide, you collect E-tanks, yada yada yada. But there are 2 new features to the game to help it be interesting. Instead of Rush, you get the Jet Adapter and the Power Adapter. With the Jet Adapter, you can actually fly in the sky for a little bit, and it helps you gain momentum in the air and can help you reach places. And with the Power Adapter, if you charge it up, bam! One Punch Man Mega Man. Seriously, couldn't you have just done this from the start when Rush was introduced? But still, both of these new features are awesome. I had so much fun playing with them, and they were just a blast to use. Now, obviously, that's most of what I can talk about with the gameplay, since it is very similar to the previous entries, but still, Mega Man 6 was a fun time to be had. Now let's talk about the Robot Masters. All 8 of them are pretty strong in my opinion when it comes to Robot Masters. Sure, yeah, they do have some stereotypes, but it was supposed to represent each corner of the world, and the designs were actually submitted by multiple people across the world, not just the creators of the game. So, yeah, I will admit it is pretty interesting to have a Mega Man game where the fans were able to pitch out some designs, and they all do stand out from one another in their own unique ways. Now, in terms of their levels, I think they were really fun to go through, with some of my personal favorites being Flame Man, Wind Man, and I also really had a kick out of Yamato and Nightman stages. Speaking of which, their weapons were also really fun to use. The plant shield was kind of but stuff like the Tomahawk and the Nightball were so much fun to use in my opinion. Those 2 were the highlights of the weapons. Sure, yeah, the flame shot you got was kind of just there. Okay, I know I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but they'll just go with it. And Blizzard Man's weapon was just kind of there as well. But still, I had a lot of fun using each of the weapons, and also the Yamato Spear was also fun to use in my opinion. I actually really like the designs of some of these, with my 2 personal favorites being Yamato Man and Nightman. Those 2 were just awesome. But to be fair, I am a sucker for knights and samurais, and we even have Centaur Man with a pretty cool weapon that's a screen nuke. There's also the Windstorm, which I thought was pretty cool to use. Now, the only real issue I have with the game is, yeah, I do think it's pointless to go from the Mr. X castle stages to the Wily castle stages. Like, seriously, you could have just had the regular Mr. X stages, and then we go straight to the final Wily castle level. It just felt pointless in my opinion. But I definitely didn't feel the length compared to Mega Man 5, since with this game and Mega Man 4, they just went by for me. They didn't feel that long, and honestly, I had a blast playing through Mega Man 6. Out of all the games I've covered in this video, this is definitely my personal favorite out of all of them, since it was the one I had the most fun playing. I'm going to show a quick tier list real quick of how I rank these first 6 entries, so take my opinion with a grain of salt, okay? But anywho, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this first video, and see you all in the next video where we take a look at the other 5 Mega Man games that we have to look at for this video. Well, for part 2 at least. So, yeah. But we don't know when part 2 will be uploaded, just sometime in the future. Hopefully next month, or June. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and see you all next time. Bye.